Shirley won't be saying this, but Shirley Esther Schleining, very good. Is that very good? I hope I did that well with others. But today we're going to be sharing lots of stories about Shirley and the family. And this really is a celebration of life. And there's going to be a lot of people get up here and share from their heart just what their experience of this lady, this mother, this grandmother, great-grandmother, aunt, what it has meant to them. We're celebrating her. Shirley passed away from this earth last Saturday, August 16th. It was a Saturday at the age of 78. And she will be greatly remembered. Will you please join me in a word of prayer? Father God, as we remember and celebrate Shirley's life, we thank you for our time with her and how she shared her life with us. May you indwell us with your strength, comfort, and peace. Amen.
First Corinthians. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it's not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoice with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always preserves.
It's a pretty small place, you know. I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses, and he walks with me and he talks with me. And it tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. He speaks and the sound of his voice is so sweet that the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing, and he walks with me and he talks with me. He tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I'd stay in the garden with him, though the night around me is falling.
Shirley was born February 26, 1936, to Edgar and Nettie Peterson in Holdridge, Nebraska, and attended schools in Lincoln. The youngest of 9 children, she was a kind and a gentle wife and mother, and enjoyed spending the time with her loved ones. As you will know, throughout this whole time of celebration, family will be mentioned time and time again. It was very important to her. She was a homemaker and will be remembered for her skills in sewing, embroidery, making clothes and crafts, and for her family and friends, gardening, camping, and loving the Texas Rangers, thick and thin. She was preceded in death by her parents, husband Gerald of 59 years, sisters Adeline and Ruth, brothers Harlan, Donald, and Warren Peterson. She is survived by children Joy Schleining, Christine Lewis, and her husband Edward, Carrie Schleining, Annette Shirley, and husband Jeffrey, grandchildren Amy Hill, and husband Max, and Amanda Luce. Great-grandchildren Anna Luce, Lisa Alva, and Aiden Hill, sisters Grace Erickson, Wanda Gustafson, and husband William, brother Dwayne, and wife Willie Peterson. Beloved niece Beth Peterson, numerous nieces and nephews, and many extended family, and numerous friends. Shirley was a lifelong member of the American Lutheran Church. The town where Shirley was born, Holdridge, Nebraska, was established by Swedish immigrants in the 1880s. The family lived in Axtell, Nebraska, near Holdridge, on a farm that they called the home place. In Shirley's first year, they moved to Kimball, Nebraska, and she could always be seen with dolls and puppies, and they were never far away from her. And those are evidence in a lot of the family photographs. She enjoyed outdoor life with her 8 siblings, doing things that kids that age do, riding bicycles, fishing, always with Laddie, her beloved dog. When Shirley was 7, the family moved again. They moved to Lincoln. Shirley met Gerald at that point in high school, and they married December 28, 1952. Shirley stayed with her in-laws and worked in Lincoln when Jerry joined the Air Force and trained in California. The following summer, after basic training, they were sent to Biloxi, Mississippi. Next, they were sent to Ardmore, Oklahoma, where Joy Lynn and Christine Ann were born. They made their way back to Lincoln, moving into the never-forgotten Green House. And while they were meeting, the Sheehans, who became their lifelong friends. Both families raising their kids together. It was during this time Carrie Michael was born. They bought their first house on Indian Road. And 5 years later, Annette Kay was born. Lifetime friends were made. Olympkas, Martinovskis, Fuyans, Landons, Sheehans, and Adaires, spending Saturday evenings together, partying with food, drinks, and lots of fun. Life takes unexpected turns, and Jerry's job took the family to Arlington. Carrie followed after that, and Texas became home to Shirley in 1979. Shirley loved children and was able to use that passion for children by babysitting, mentoring new mothers along the way. Friend Judy Devlin says she was a mentor and helped calm my new mother nerves. Yeah, there were trips between Texas and Nebraska to see those who hadn't seen the light yet. I put that in there. They would go to Nebraska and see their families and friends, and of course the granddaughters, Amy and Amanda, and eventually all her kids made their way to Texas. Shirley loved her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. She was very proud of all of them. She recognized their special, unique gifts and qualities and always encouraged them. Shirley was a very talented individual herself, an artist sketching portraits and fashion designs. She enjoyed ceramics, was passionate about oil painting. She had a love for sewing and embroidering. She made dresses for her girls when they were growing up, doll clothes for her granddaughters, and helped Lillian with sewing Christine's wedding dress, bridesmaid dress, and flower girl dress. In addition to her many talents, Shirley was also a rock collector. I don't know, some of y'all may not know that. She was a rock collector. She would find at least one rock on her vacation trips, and she would bring it home and keep it. And she had many bags of those saved vacation rocks that were collected over the years of their vacations. She enjoyed books, mostly crime thrillers and mysteries, and had similar tastes with the TV shows that she liked to watch. Law and Order and CSI. And most recently, she read using her Kindle. In fact, it was hard to separate her very far from her iPod and her Kindle. She loved to buy things on the iPod. It thrilled her to get packages through the mail that she had ordered. She had a good sense of humor. She had her funny stories and was a good sport when tricks were played on her. Carrie remembers a time when he and friends had fun with her and her Volkswagen Beetle. It seems that Harry and his friends did something with that Beetle, and Shirley came out and found it sideways in the driveway. Nobody's ever played anything like that, right? She just went out there, grinned, kept her cool, and somehow managed to work it out of the driveway. Family meant the world to her. She loved her brothers and sisters and was proud of her Peterson Swedish heritage. Being the youngest of 9, she was an aunt at a very early age and was considered the cool aunt by many in the family. That love for family permeated throughout her entire life. Family parties and holiday traditions were very important to her. She and Jerry loved the family traditions and instilled it into the family as a part of their legacy. And I guess that will continue on. Every birthday and holiday was celebrated as family together. Shirley will be remembered for her smile. The past few months, it has been a privilege to be her hospice chaplain, and also to a chance to visit with Chris and Annette. Although Shirley was confined due to her illness, she remained positive and delightful, and always had something good to say. I loved her laugh. Couldn't forget that laugh. These past couple of years were tough on Shirley. She spent considerable time in and out of the hospital and nursing homes. She remained friendly throughout that entire time and made good friends with her nurses, aides, and her therapists.
spaces between us. You have come to show you go on. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Once more, you open the door, and you're here in my heart, and my heart will go on and on. Love can touch us one time and last for a lifetime, and never let go till we're gone. Love was when I loved you one true time. I hold you in my life, will always go on. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Once more, you open the door, and you're here in my heart, and my heart will go on and on. There's nothing I fear, and I know that my heart will go on. We'll stay forever this way. You are safe in my heart, and my heart will go on
Ooh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and dream of dreams really do come true. Ooh, someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dare to, oh why can't I? Oh, someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like a lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. The dreams that you dare to, why, oh why can't I?
Kelly. Annette and I met in 1986 at Tarrant County College. We were fast friends and we've been friends ever since. I'm reading this on her behalf because she wanted to share some thoughts today. She writes, Mom was such a special lady. She wasn't perfect, but who is? She held so many special roles to different people during her lifetime, and I'm going to miss her so much as my mom. I spent a great deal of my life dreading the day my parents would no longer be here. The reality of that day is here, and now I'm missing both of my parents so much. I can find comfort in knowing that they've been reunited eternally. Here are some of my favorite memories. Mom had a navy blue Volkswagen that was spoken of already when I was a kid. She loved that car. I liked to sit in the little cubby in the back of the car. I remember the tinker, tinker, tinker sound the turn signal would make. I often rode with her into Lincoln when she had to pick up some of her work. Sometimes after a trip to the grocery store, the car was so filled with a ton of bags, I'd have no choice but to sit in that little cubby hole in the back. Mom always gave me a box of animal crackers to hold me over until we got home. I really loved grocery shopping with her and riding in that little car. When we moved from Nebraska to Texas, the car was loaded onto the Mayflower moving truck along with all of our other things. I'll never forget watching them drive that little bug off the truck in front of our new house. Also, during that time, one of the movers brought in the TV and hooked it up. The picture would only come in black and white. Mom was worried about that and what happened to the color. The mover told her that the TV had been laying on its side in the truck and all the color must have run out. Mom wasn't amused, but soon it was clear he was only kidding as the TV straightened out and the color returned. I remember the simple things Mom did, just being Mom. From her holding my hand and telling me to be strong during those trips to the ER when I needed stitches, to sitting with me, teaching me how to tie my shoes. I struggled so much with this new task, and I know she was biting her tongue, and probably losing her patience with me, but she always kept her cool. When I was in Bluebird's troop one time, I didn't want to go to the meeting. Mom sat me down and asked why I was so scared. I told her I didn't want to go skydiving. She laughed for a minute, and she tried to figure out why did I say that. Then she realized that night our troop would be tie-dyeing t-shirts. Later in life, she always reminded me of that story as we remembered how silly that little misunderstanding was. Mom loved to sew. She was a phenomenal seamstress who made clothes or craft items and even Barbie doll clothes. She tried her best to get me to share in her passion for sewing. During my 7th grade home economics class, we had to make jogging pants. I cut the pattern, pinned the pieces together, and sewed away to create my finished project. Epic fail. Mom took it apart and sewed it up again correctly. Of course, she left just enough imperfection, and I ended up with a B. I did get a creativity gene from Mom, but it wasn't a sewing gene. Another of my fondest memories was going to Miller and Payne Tea Room with Mom, sometimes to meet aunts, friends, or sometimes just the two of us. It was a special day when we could go to the tea room or go shopping at Gateway. She loved to shop. One time my girlfriends met with their moms or daughters, and it became our mother-daughter tea. Mom loved that day so much. I wish we'd done it more often. That was a special memory, and one of the best pictures of my mom and I came from that day. Last year, we passed that special tea room tradition down to little Ava by taking her along. When Jeff and I got engaged, Mom went a bit overboard helping to plan the wedding. It became so overwhelming, Jeff and I decided to elope to San Antonio. Somewhere along the planning, though, family decided to come along, so it became a destination wedding. I enjoyed spending evenings with Mom addressing envelopes for the announcements. One night after we were married, Mom called very upset and asked for us to come over right away. When we got there, she was in tears. I was so worried she was going to tell us she or Dad had a terrible disease or something. As it turned out, she had accidentally recorded over our wedding video with one of her television shows. I remember being so thankful that she and Dad were okay, I wasn't too concerned about losing the wedding video. Jeff was actually happy about it because there was no more evidence of him chewing gum during the ceremony. One day recently I came across an envelope in the closet, and inside was a portrait of Jeff and I, along with some handwritten notes about our wedding, written by Mom. She wrote, "The only faults of the wedding were that the air conditioner was running and Jeff was chewing gum." One of the perks of my working at American Airlines was flight benefits, where my parents could go travel places they couldn't have otherwise. They'd often go on trips and come back and share their excitement, which made Jeff and I want to go. I shared a love of travel on many trips with my mom, from Phoenix, Minnesota, Nebraska, and shared her love of Hawaii, Vegas, and New Orleans. I thank both of my parents for their love of entertaining. They were social people and loved to give dinner parties, celebrate birthdays, holidays, and any other occasion that would merit a gathering. They began numerous family traditions we will definitely continue. My mom was always such a gracious hostess. My mom loved my friends and welcomed them into our home since my childhood. You know how you don't think your mom is cool, but all your friends do? Well, my mom was pretty cool. The last few years have been difficult for our family, especially Mom. She missed my dad so much, it was hard for her to accept his being gone. She was weak and frail. She had to rely on us kids a lot more. I'm so thankful I was able to spend so much time with her in the past few years, helping with doctor's appointments, sitting by her side for hospital stays and nursing home visits. After all the sacrifices my mom made for us when we were young, it felt good to be able to return the love to her. I remember having Mom come into the dining room back in July to sit at the table while I did homework, and she shopped on her iPad. The two of us sat in silence, sharing space, doing our own thing, but being together. It was a priceless memory that I'll hold dear. Finally, my desire to become a nurse comes from the care and kindness I found during the last several years with my parents. I was their advocate, making sure they understood instructions from doctors and asking the right questions. The nurses inspired me with the compassionate care they gave to my parents, and nursing runs in our family. When I told Mom I wanted to be a nurse, she was so proud of me and completely supported my decision. Once, though, this summer, when I stayed with her, I told her I needed to go study and to ring the bell if she needed anything. She looked puzzled for a moment and then said, "How are you going to go to nursing school and take care of me?" I told her not to worry, I could handle both. Now I know when things get tough over the next few years, I'll have a special angel at my side to keep me pushing forward with strength and determination. I'd like to thank Mom up in heaven for being such an amazing mom to me. I thank her for loving Jeff like a son and for giving me so many memories. These few shared today could only scratch the surface, but I'll carry many more with me in my heart. She was a courageous warrior with everything she endured in her life, from cancer, back fractures, to losing Dad and many other loved ones before her. I'm grateful she showed me how to be a strong woman and how to persevere through anything. I'm at peace knowing she's out of pain and that she's with her love, Jerry, again. They are finally reunited, and I know they'll both be looking over my shoulder forever.
I'm actually reading this for my mom, Christine. When I was a little girl, I always kissed my mom goodbye before school. One day when I was halfway to school, I remembered I hadn't kissed her goodbye. I had to go all the way back home just so I could give her a kiss. As the years went by, I felt I needed to talk to her almost every day to see how things were going. I would let her know about my day, but mostly just listen to all her stories of the past. I just wish I could have retained all what was said. Mom and Dad always said, no matter how old you are, we, as parents, will never stop worrying about how you are. And that is why I always wanted them to know how I was doing and that I was okay. Throughout the years when I was sick, all I wanted was Mommy, and just to hear her voice on the other end of the phone was all I needed to feel better. This past summer, Annette and I were able to take her out several times on different outings. Build-A-Bear was one of them. She had the best time picking out a dog and clothes, stuffing it and giving her a name, Daisy May. We went shopping that day, not knowing it was going to be the last time we would ever go shopping with her again. She bought a beautiful purse and had fun looking at shoes. It is a day that I will always remember and hold dear to my heart. I have been with my mom almost every day for the past 1.5 years, taking care of her. It was hard at times, but so very, very rewarding. I will miss her kisses, her telephone calls, and all her long stories. I will even miss her finger pointing at me and saying, "Christine, Mom, I know you're in a better place. You're with your beloved Jerry and all your family members that are in heaven, sitting at a big round table, telling stories and laughing. Tell Daddy hello. Have fun dancing, sewing to your heart's content, painting, smoking that endless cigarette, and all the things you love to do. I love you, Mom. I miss you, and thank you for being my mom and for everything you've done for me. Your daughter, Christine Ann."
This was an idea that I was thinking over during my training when she passed away. With the busy lifestyles and stresses that are put on everyone, we tend to forget the precious gift of life and how time can slip through our fingers. The passing away of a loved one takes us out of the rush of life and gives us a humbling reminder to not worry about the small stuff, but instead enjoy the mere presence of life around us. A step in life that is a hard obstacle to overcome, but yet brings a sense of togetherness amongst family and friends with an abundance of love and memories that will be celebrated. The last time I heard her voice, she delivered love through music by singing "Bushel and Peck" through the phone while I was at Fort Leonard, Missouri, completing my military duties. Before that call, I was caught up in the outer stresses of life instead of living it to the fullest and enjoying my presence on earth. After that call, though, I was snapped back into reality and allowed me to become more thankful for the life that I live and all the family and friends that are with us today. Love surrounded great grandma, and I was glad that I got to know her more in the last couple of years and enjoy her being with us.
I'm Todd Peterson. Shirley was my father's littlest sister. And that makes her my aunt, and I'm her nephew. For those of you who are taking notes at home. It's a time for remembrances, and I'm kind of speaking on behalf of the many nieces and nephews of Shirley. And I was reading a remembrance written by Beth. And Beth said, I remember my Aunt Shirley as someone who provided encouragement and support and a sense of liveliness. Parents are not the same parent to everyone. We're not always able to help their children the way the children need help. So that's why we need aunts and uncles. Beth remembers that Aunt Shirley and Uncle Jerry provided a respite for her when she was going to college, when she first moved to Texas. It seemed she would visit them about every month and spend Thanksgiving with them. The longer Beth lived in Texas, the more this became her home, and they were part of her family, and she cherishes that memory. Beth's brother Bill also wrote a remembrance. He remembered when he was in Oklahoma in the Air Force. I'm not familiar with Oklahoma. I hear it's paradise somewhere north of here. There's different opinions about that. When Bill was in the Air Force, he wasn't earning enough money even to drive his car for a week, but every so often, his sanctuary would be to head down to Dallas-Fort Worth to see Aunt Shirley and Uncle Jerry. He remembers Shirley would always tell him that it wasn't as bad as it seemed. The Air Force wasn't a bad choice for him. And then she would set up Bill with some Stephen King novels and some cooked meals serving with loving care. He writes, when it was time to depart back to Oklahoma, it made the days go a little smoother and more enjoyable after time spent with Aunt Shirley. Love you and thank you, Aunt Shirley. I have remembrances of my own. I can remember sometime in the mid-70s when Chris was expecting her first daughter. And this was a matter of some excitement because that was going to be the first granddaughter. I remember being over their house and Jerry and I were standing in the living room talking about it, and I decided to tease Jerry a little bit because Jerry was a young man. And I said, well, Jerry, how does it feel to be a grandfather? And he paused for a moment and he says, being a grandfather isn't so bad. The hard part is getting used to sleeping with a grandmother. Unbeknownst to Jerry, Shirley heard him say that. She was in the kitchen, and I kind of looked, and I could see her in the kitchen. And the look on her face, I got to tell you, if daggers, just daggers. And I remember about a decade before that, when I was very little, this was in 1968, is that there was the middle of a presidential election, and at one point at the dinner table, Kerry opened up his mouth and said, I want Bobby Kennedy to win because he looks just like my Uncle Donald. Uncle Donald, that's my dad. By no stretch of the imagination did my dad look like Robert Kennedy. As a matter of fact, the last time I saw Shirley a few years ago, she looked at me and she said, look, you look just like your dad. I suppose by extension that means I look like Robert Kennedy, so you can see how far off Kerry was. And I remember the look on Shirley's face. I remember she looked at Kerry and she looked at everybody else on the table and she just rolled her eyes that just said, my son is deranged. But one of my most influential memories of Shirley took place even a few years before that. I remember in 1965, her mother died. Minnie passed away. I remember we all attended the funeral, and it was an open casket funeral. And afterwards, we went over to Shirley and Jerry's house for a reception. And I was probably about 7 years old. And at the reception, all of the grown-ups went upstairs and all the kids went downstairs. And when we started playing downstairs, I gotta tell you, we started having just a ton of fun. We were running up and down and we were screaming, and I remember they had big shelves in the basement where all sorts of things were stored, and I remember we were just pulling things off the shelf, looking for toys and other things to be doing. And I was 7 years old, and even then, I remember thinking, we are completely out of control. And you know, at 7 years old, you know, you don't have a lot of self-awareness, and for a 7-year-old to think you're out of control, you're really out of control. And I decided that we had to be, we were going to be in so much trouble that I decided to go upstairs and hang out with the adults. And I didn't do that for any reason other than the fact that I felt that when a grown-up eventually goes downstairs and sees what's going on, and I wasn't there, they were going to blame it on Carrie and not his older cousin. But when I got upstairs, it was a completely different mood. It was the children, siblings of Nettie, and there were 9 of them. And it was a time of grieving, it was a time of real sadness. And I remember looking at Aunt Shirley and the sadness that was on her face. And I remember her talking about her grandmother. And I remember she looked at her grandmother's hands that morning in the castle. And she remembers those hands had held Shirley, had cared for her, had fed her, had spanked her. And she remembered that with her grandmother, or with her mother, my grandmother. And I remember during that time realizing for the first time in my life that grown-ups grieve too. I kind of thought at that time grown-ups just had it all together and they were able to handle everything just kind of was fine. But I learned that grown-ups grieve too. Recently I heard a poet say that each person's death diminishes us all. And that's certainly true. Shirley knew it on that day, and we feel it today as well. But Shirley would not want us to leave it at that, because Shirley understood there was a flip side to that coin, philosophical coin. If each person's death diminishes us all, then each person's life affirms our own. And that's what I remember about Shirley. I remember that she had a full life, and it was a lively life. I remember she was a wife and a mother, great-grandmother, grandmother, a friend, and she was my aunt. And I remember she was a homemaker in the best sense of the word. She could put your loving arms around family. For Beth, Shirley was a respite from college. For Bill, Shirley provided a sanctuary of home-cooked meals and Stephen King novels. And that's what I remember. I remember her loving arms and family. I remember the second home that she created for me and the other cousins. I remember the chatter and the teasing and the laughter around the dinner table. And more than anything else, I remember the joyous life that she lived. And to this day, that life affirms my own.
I loved her very much, and she was a beautiful woman. And I'm trying to family spread the news, and I just wanted to do this poem for her. Cloud shadows emerge over the motherland. Nature grows as tears drop. Colors of the rainbow over the ground, standing bold while all roots connect. All different mounds, cool waters around her curves of land. Drums call at the sound of a hand. feet dancing, heads up high, a single heartbeat along the plateau. Mother calls for her children running along her plains. Mother heartbeats, more heartbeats along the plateau, dancing, singing to her praise, feeling nature, as feeling the beat of the drum. The tempo connects to her children within her roots, are their roots. Her love is their home.
Wow, look at all these beautiful people that Shirley has created and connected in her life. I just want to say it's an honor to be here. I never had a grandma, but she truly fulfilled that missing hole, wholeheartedly. And I have a poem that I wanted to read for Christine, her beautiful daughter here. To those I love, when I am gone, release me, let me go. You mustn't tie yourself to me with tears. Just be happy that we had so many years. I gave you my love. You can only guess how much you gave to me in happiness. I thank you for the love you each have shown, but now it's time I traveled alone. So grieve a while for me if you grieve. You must. Then let your grief be comforted by trust. It's only for a while that we must part, so bless the memories within your heart. I won't be far away, for life goes on. So if you need me, call, and I will come. Though you can't see or touch, I'll be near. And if you listen with your heart, you'll hear. All of my love around you is soft and clear. And then when you must come this way alone, I'll greet you with a smile and say, welcome home. I have a poem that I would like to read as well. It's called I Carry Your Heart by E.E. Cummings. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. And whatever is done, by only me is your doing, my darling. I fear no fate, for you are my fate, my sweet. I want no world, for beautiful you are my world, my truth. And it's you are whatever a moon has always meant, and whatever a sun will always sing, is you. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of the sky, the tree called life, which grows higher than the soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart.
I'm gonna read one more scripture. Has some meaning and power to it. Psalms 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me. In the presence of my enemy, you anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
I'm gonna sing Tennessee Waltz. Grandma, I love that song. To the Tennessee waltz with old friend I happened to see. I introduced her to my loved one while they were dancing. My friend stole my sweetheart from me. I remember the time at the Tennessee waltz. Now I know just how much I have lost. Yes, I lost my little darling the night they were playing the beautiful Tennessee waltz. I was dancing to the Tennessee waltz with an old friend I happened to see. I introduced her to my loved one while they were dancing. My friend stole my sweetheart from me. I remember Tennessee waltz.
Mic check, mic. This is for Grandma. Grandma's hands clapped in church on Sunday morning. Grandma's hands played the tambourine so well. Grandma's hands used to issue out the warning. She'd say, Amy, don't you run so fast. Might fall on a piece of glass. Might be snakes there in that grass. Grandma's hands. Grandma's hands soothed the local unwed mother. Grandma's hands used to ache sometimes as well. Grandma's hands used to lift her face and tell her, she'd say, baby, Grandma understands that you really love that man. Put yourself in Jesus' hands. Grandma's hands. Grandma's hands used to hand me piece of candy. Grandma's hands pick me up each time I fell. Grandma's hands, boy, they really came in handy. She'd say, Maddie, don't you spank that boy. What you gotta spank him for? He didn't drop no apple core, but we don't have Grandma anymore. When we get to heaven, we'll look for Grandma's hands.
love that's sleeping while my guitar gently weeps. I look at the floor and I see it needs sweeping. Still my guitar gently weeps. I don't know why nobody told you how to unfold your love. I don't know how. I don't know how. You did it so well earlier. Someone told you they bought and sold you. Look at the world and I've noticed it's turning while my guitar gently weeps. With every mistake we must surely be learning. Still my guitar gently weeps. I don't know how you were ever did. You were perverted too. I don't know how you were inverted. No one alerted you. Look from the wings at the play you've been staging while my guitar gently weeps. As I'm sitting here doing nothing but aging, still my guitar gently
Gotta love the view.
Yesterday's gone, and tomorrow's too far away. I live in the moment, 'cause all I have is today. When yesterday's gone, it's gone, and tomorrow isn't promised. When yesterday's gone, it's gone. Not worried about the past, I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. There's nothing like the future waiting. We could break up on a beautiful day, make love and make up in the storm and rain. I feel your kiss but it's not the same. Didn't hurt my feelings, but I feel your pain. I'm stuck in the here and now. I'm still trying to figure it out. My sanity is leaving me now. I'm going back to the future. Yesterday is gone, and tomorrow's too far away. I live in the moment, 'cause all I have is today. When yesterday's gone, it's gone, and tomorrow isn't promised. When yesterday's gone, it's gone. I'm not worried about the past, I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. There's nothing like the future waiting. There is a storm out my window pane. I'm feeling happy, but I'm still in pain. Society may guess my name, call me a loser, but I'm winning the game. I'm stuck in the here and now. I'm still trying to figure it out. My sanity is leaving me now. I'm going back to the future.
I just wanna get back. Was on no issue with tissue, was used to the wedding. Love was the setting, emotions so strong it made happiness jealous. Grandma, I miss you. I knew that one day in the future I'd kiss you. The future is near, love in the air. 1989, I swear I was there. Next September, close to November. This past July was an awful winter. Do you remember? My future got lost in the past. I'm passing my future. The future don't last. I always remember to always forget, and you're so unforgettable. How you do that?
Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to uproot. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to tear down, and a time to build. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones, and a time to gather them. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search, and a time to give up. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to tear, and a time to mend. A time to be silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace.
It seems like every day hear people working and striving for hope. But you know, with God, there is hope. In Romans chapter 5, the Apostle Paul tells us those that are justified by faith have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. This is possible because Jesus took upon himself the sins of man, our sins, and he paid the ultimate price by dying on the cross. It Apostle John says Jesus hanging on the cross at the very end cried out, "It is finished." Then he bowed his head and gave up his own human spirit. Jesus, the Son of God, who also became man, took with him at his death the sin of man, our sin. And 3 days later gave proof of life after human life by his resurrection. When he appeared to Mary Magdalene outside the tomb, he told her, "I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and to your God." There is no love greater than this. This free gift, grace, defined as unmerited favor, is available to all. Shirley lived with faith and assurance of the promises of God. She lived a full life and left quite a legacy. She would say, believe and have hope.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. In many dangerous toils and snares I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought my safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. When this flesh and heart shall fail, and mortal life shall cease, I shall possess within the veil a life of joy and peace. Thank you.
Will everyone please stand, please, and recite with me the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation,